What's going on, guys? This is Brian Jones from PopCulture.com, here with another episode of Pop Culture at Home. And joining me today is Ken Jennings. You can call him the Jeopardy GOAT. He won the Jeopardy Greatest of All Time tournament earlier this year, and he also holds the record for most wins in Jeopardy history, with 74 consecutive wins. And he's also the consulting producer for Jeopardy for the new season, which is now airing. Check your local listings on that. Ken, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited to still be working on Jeopardy. I thought I was retired, but, just like Michael Corleone, I guess they pulled me back in.
No doubt about it. But are you surprised that you are able to continue your Jeopardy journey after all these years?
It was a big surprise. I assumed they would be putting me out to pasture, I was like an athlete. I was kind of realizing I was losing a step. I was getting a step slow. I won that last ring. I was happy to take the moment to hang up my jersey. And that day, the day that the last show aired on ABC, I got a call from the Jeopardy producers. And he said, Ken, I've never called a contestant in 20 odd years of producing this show because, all the legal regulations around the contestants, they got to keep them separated. But we've been talking, and if you're really retired, would you like to come aboard? And it was the most flattering thing ever. As a huge fan of the show, I realized I was going to miss it. And now I see my name in the end credits of Jeopardy every night as a consultant, which is very flattering. It's a real honor to still be associated with my favorite show.
Oh, absolutely. I know that's got to be great for you. And with you being a consulting producer, I don't know how much of contact you have with Alex Trebek. If you do, have you been able to check on him to see how he's doing? Because with everything going on with him health-wise?
Yeah, Alex has faced plenty of health challenges in the last year. He turned 80 this year, and he's already battling stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and has lasted longer than almost anybody with that disease has, and is still hosting Jeopardy and doing great. It's funny. He was visibly cranky during the hiatus because Jeopardy had to take a slightly longer than usual hiatus because they ran out of new shows and they weren't allowed to tape during the pandemic. And Alex was just, I guess, climbing the walls. He wanted to be working. He really missed it. I guess, I've watched him on that set, and that really is, I think, where he feels his most capable, his most confident, his most old self, despite the cancer battle. And that's why he's going to keep doing that job as long as he can, and we are lucky to have him.
No doubt about it. I know fans love seeing Alex Trebek after all these years on Jeopardy. And you mentioned the Jeopardy GOAT tournament, which, again, aired earlier this year. And I remember one of the interviews you mentioned that you were surprised that you won. Is it just the fact that when you were originally on Jeopardy, it was in 2004, and guys like James Holzhauer and Brad Ruder were there a little bit more recently, that it's just the fact that you weren't able to keep up with them?
That's a lot of it. When I went on Jeopardy in 2004, it was a very different game. Players like James and Brad really kind of reinvented the game by kind of applying game theory and gambling theory, making big, scary wagers, tackling different ways to different orders of approaching the game board, taking the clues in a different order, different things you can do like that to keep your opponents off balance. We didn't have any of that in 2004. This is like the horse and buggy era. There was no way to study old Jeopardy games online. Nowadays, you got people building simulators for themselves at home so they can kind of practice, getting Jeopardy fighting shape. And so, really all I could do was try to relearn James Holzhauer style Jeopardy and hope I caught a few breaks. And, his style of play is so risky. It can really be disastrous if you catch a few bad breaks. And luckily, I had better luck than any of the other two players in that tournament. I made big wagers on daily doubles that I knew. Somebody else found the daily doubles that I didn't know. In close games, when James needed a daily double, sometimes he wouldn't find one, or he would find he got a harder Final Jeopardy in that game. A lot of things had to fall just right because there is a lot of luck in a game of Jeopardy. But hey, I will take it.
Absolutely. And, watching that tournament, it's very fascinating to see you guys answer these questions as quickly as possible because they're not the easiest questions in the world. But when you talk about Brad Ruder and James Holzhauer, do you guys stay in touch, and do you have a good relationship outside of Jeopardy?
We do, actually. We're all kind of friends. I think it's just because there's such a small number of people who understand what it's like to, win on Jeopardy, much less kind of running the gauntlet of all these high pressure, high stakes tournaments. And you kind of bond when you're in that kind of environment. And really, I think a lot of it is that you don't have the sense that you're playing against each other. You really feel like you're playing against that big, scary game board. Somebody has written 60 very devious clues, and you're trying to outsmart those people. You're trying to beat Jeopardy, not James or Brad. So we're still friends. Yeah, Brad actually came over to my house a few weeks ago for a socially distanced barbecue. He's spending his summer in Seattle now. We hang out.
Yeah, that's great. That's very awesome to hear. And, when you talk about your career over the years, you not only appeared on Jeopardy, but you appeared on other game shows like 1 vs. 100, Are You Smarter Than the Fifth Grader? What are your favorite game shows to play after competing in various game shows?
I was a huge game show nerd as a kid. I remember just crying on my first day of school when I realized I was going to miss Hollywood Squares and Pyramid and all all the shows I loved. Like that was the kind of kid I was. I think to this day, my greatest unfulfilled dream is that I've never been on Family Feud. Like that was always my favorite show as a kid. I remember when my little sister was born, I was like, oh man, there's 5 of us now.
Yes.
In our family. We could be on Family Feud someday, but it still hasn't happened. So Steve Harvey, call me. Like, I want to do the Feud.
Oh, absolutely. We would love to see you on Family Feud. I'm sure you would do pretty well there. Switching gears a little bit, you are actually partnering up with TracFone Wireless. Could you explain a little bit what you're doing with them this week?
Yeah. A cool thing about kind of being a famous smarty pants in America is that smart brands reach out to you. And TracFone Wireless is an affordable, no-contract cell phone provider that's the plain smart choice in their space. And so I did kind of a series of fun videos with them where I seem very smart and I wear a smoking jacket and I talk about things like quantum physics and social political philosophy and also how smart it is to be a TracFone user and have their unlimited rollover data or their amazing unlimited talk and text plans. You kind of see how the campaign works. And there's a quiz where if players can outsmart me on a series of cell phone trivia questions, they could win a free TracFone wireless plan. So it's a lot of fun. You can check it out on my social or on TracFone.com.
How hard are those quiz questions that those fans or those TracFone users are going to be competing against you?
Well, the thing about cell phone trivia is that, we all have a phone, but we're not experts. Jeopardy doesn't have a lot of cell phone trivia questions. So I thought they were pretty challenging. I'm just going to leave that out there.
Oh, yeah. We're all looking forward to that also. And I wanted to ask you this, and with you being a game show expert, what advice would you give to someone who is competing on a game show for the first time?
I mean, it really is a whole different universe once you're on the other side of the TV screen. Game shows seem so fun and chill at home. And then when you're there, man, it is a real crucible. Like, you can't believe how fast everything moves and how scary it is when there's actual lights and cameras and a host. And, it's a whole different experience. So you really need to be ready for the stress. And the only way to do that is just to watch the show so much and so long that you really just have the rhythms of it inside you, that nothing will surprise you, and that even if you kind of freak out, you can keep playing on muscle memory. Like my first game of Jeopardy, I barely remember. It seemed to go by in like 5 minutes. But I had just watched so many, like 1,000 games of Jeopardy in my life that I could kind of do it by force of instinct and force of habit and just kind of relying on the rhythms of Alex's voice to figure out the buzzer and so forth. So you just got to be the world's foremost expert on the show you want to be on. That's the secret.
Yeah, that's definitely a key to success there. And being on TV is a lot different from watching it on TV. So, we can all understand that. And the last question for me before I let you go is there any other projects you have in the works that you can talk about other than your partnership with TracFone and obviously your consulting producer role in Jeopardy?
Yeah, that's the big stuff right now. I am a freelancer, so I've always got stuff going on. I've written 12 books. My book, Planet Funny, about kind of the history of American comedy and how it shaped our culture, came out last year. And I'm almost done with my next book, which is about different versions of the afterlife. I do a podcast called Omnibus with my friend John Roderick, a musician. And I just put out a trivia board game called Half Truth, which is I'm really excited about because I got to work with Richard Garfield, the guy who invented Magic the Gathering.
Wow.
We awesome. Collaborated on a trivia game that's designed to kind of actually be a fun party game. I don't know if you've ever had this experience with Trivial Pursuit or whatever, but it's kind of a frustrating game when you don't know an answer or you're just kind of waiting for somebody else to try to think of a clue. So we tried to build the perfect trivia game, and I think Half Truth is a lot of fun. So I'm keeping very busy in my Jeopardy retirement, I guess.
Love it. I'm looking forward to all the projects you have going on. Ken, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it, and good luck to all your success. And I should say not all your success, but good luck to all your projects you have going on.
Thank you so much, Brian. It was a lot of fun.